Hello, Cancer, Cancer Sun, Rising, and Moon. I'm Poetic Heretic, and this is your March 2019 Tarot Cast. This is a general reading for all Cancer individuals out there. And if you would like a personal reading, I do go live on this channel regularly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And on some of those days, I do live tarot readings for donations of any amount. So you can always look for me then if you would like a person. So without further ado, let's see what the cards have in store for you this month. So, Cancer individuals out there for the month of March 2019. Let's see what we get. What will be the energy for the sign of Cancer for the month of March 2019? All right, there it is. Your current outside influences, the Lovers reversed, the Challenge card, the Hierophant, the underlying energy, Death, the Past, the Three of Wands, what you hope to achieve, the Queen of Pentacles, the near future, your attitude or position on the situation, the Seven of Swords, the outside force coming in, Judgment, hopes or fears, the Sun, and the final outcome card is the Six of Wands reversed. All right. So I do see it looks like the stream is lagging a bit on my end. I do apologize for that. There's not really anything I can do about that right now, sadly, but as long as we can keep going, then we shall keep going. If not, then I guess I'll just have to come back and redo this later. Hello there, Kimmy. Welcome to the stream. So starting out the month of March, you have the Lovers reversed. So let me just look at the context of the rest of your reading here. This would most likely indicate, especially with, well, at least one of the other cards I'm seeing here, a concern at the beginning of the month that you might not be seeing things completely clearly. You might need to think more logically about things. There may be some misperceptions or some bad information or something like that. There's also a risk of fighting with everyday people that you see in your life. So these could be anyone from like family members to colleagues to neighbors, things of that nature. And so you do want to watch out for that, be careful for that, or be careful about that. You might even want to focus on the meaning of the Lovers card when upright, which talks about having very clear discrimination about things, very clear, logical thinking, assessment of details and stuff like that. So beware of that. There's also, let's see, with the Lovers reversed, there can be the possibility of situations developing that really sort of test your values and principles. And when the Lovers card shows up reversed, it indicates a high probability of making the wrong decision. So I've got to call it like I see it. Do beware of that. It's especially a situation where what is easier in the moment is not ultimately the right decision or the best decision. Like what is easier in the moment is not actually the path of least resistance, because ultimately it's something that is not in alignment with your values and your truth, and instead is just sort of a short-term gain but a long-term loss. So watch out for that around the beginning of the month. Don't make that mistake. For your challenge card for this month, we have the Hierophant, talking about the order and structure of things, status quo, and the physical world, the practical world, and stuff like that. And so with what we were just seeing, that's probably another indication of make sure that you stay, again, true to yourself this month, true to your morality, moral principles. That's going to connect in with this card. Let's see what else. I'm looking at the rest of your cards to see how else this might factor in. Be careful with decisions, I would say. And you might even, let's see. You might even want to be careful not to let things get out of control this month, I guess would be the way to put it. Since, again, this card talks about order and structure, the status quo and stuff like that, as if saying, keep this energy going this month. Don't let things get crazy. Keep things in order and in a state of stability as best you can. So for the underlying energy, everything forming a foundation for your current situation and your immediate environment, people around you, stuff like that, you have Death. So very interesting card. The main message of this card is to let the past die, let things that are old and no longer working die so that new things can be born, all metaphorically speaking. And so do be aware of that. There might even, since it's showing up in the underlying energy, there might even be like some things that you've had to let metaphorically die so that new things can be born this month. Again, this is like the basis for your month this month. Other than that, this can indicate like catharsis and deep emotional healing and stuff like that. You may be working with other people who help you to release things that are not good for you, essentially, whether it be like trauma or just negative beliefs or something like that. So yeah, it's all about the idea of letting the old die so that the new can be born. So ultimately it's a good thing, although it can be a bit challenging. For the past, you have the Three of Wands. So this is indicating stuff that has happened recently that has led to the current state of affairs this month. Well, the Three of Wands is a fairly positive card. It's generally speaking all about projects being well underway. And sometimes it can be like investment in multiple areas. It's about, or it can be about anyway, ownership and things moving along well, communication, and very, what would be the right word, like fast communication or strong communication, good communication even. So we do have that in the recent past. So not really seeing anything that is necessarily so difficult in the recent past, although remember in the present, whatever's been happening, don't let it lead to a situation where you sort of give in to short-term gain or short-term pleasure at the expense of a long-term loss, or the cost of a long-term loss. Yeah. So for what you hope to achieve, you have the Queen of Pentacles. So going back again to this idea of stability that I mentioned earlier, this is what you're reaching for this month, what you hope to achieve. And this card is all about safety and security and stability. It can also be about sound finance, stability with work and money in particular, because it's Pentacles, talk about earth energy that talks about work. So that's what you're reaching for this month. And again, that's what the cards are recommending to you with that Hierophant card showing up for the challenge. And so indeed, that would be my best advice. Again, try to keep things safe and secure this month in particular. Don't let things get too crazy or out of hand. Don't take unnecessary risks, especially. All right, so for the near future, you have the Eight of Cups. So this would be like the first month or two, or not the first week or two of the month. And I would say, especially with what we saw earlier, like with the Death card, this is more of that leaving behind what is not working energy. And it's also the idea of comprehending what is right for you emotionally and creatively. You know, it can be going your own way. It can be stripping things down to what really matters, especially when it comes to emotions. So you're definitely seeing that more in the first week or two. And I'm just looking to see what we have coming up. Yeah, it looks like there's going to be some level of recurrence of this, but we'll get to that. But yeah, that first week or two, you're realizing what you have to do, essentially. You're realizing what is right for you, especially when it comes to the element of water, which is your emotions, and you're doing what you have to do. And if you find yourself not doing that, then that would be the advice of this card, to make sure that you do that. For your attitude or position on the situation, about halfway through the month, you have the Seven of Swords. So this is how you're feeling, again, about 2 weeks or halfway through into the month. The Seven of Swords, a very interesting card, often about roads less traveled and individuality and idiosyncrasy and going against the flow and sort of making one's own path. And so in the context of what we had earlier, there may be a temptation to try to go against the grain, go against the status quo, and the cards are apparently not advising that this month. However, that's not to say that you shouldn't also be the individual that you are either. Like, I don't want to give that impression. But let me see here. Is there anything else? No, I would just say you're likely feeling like you're either going down or you're ready to go down, like roads less traveled, and be more of an individual and that sort of thing. Just again, be careful, because there's this risk of losing stability if you go against the status quo too much this month. And yes, at times that card can indicate the idea of like betrayal and getting away with something and stuff like that. I don't know if that's really so likely in the context of this reading, but throwing it out there for what it's worth. So for the outside force coming in, you have Judgment. So this is something coming at you, and it's likely happening later in the month, like about 3 weeks or so into the month. Well, Judgment is powerful indeed. This is the idea of like destiny calling, of the raising of buried content. And remember, we had that Death card earlier as well, talking about the transformation in that area. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, potentially even. Now, will it manifest like that for every single one of you? Probably not, but it may for some of you. You know, this is a pretty big deal of something coming at you, and it may be something that's helping you to get away again from things that, or at least deal with, transform things that have not been working for you, perhaps even repressed psychological issues or something of that nature. Other than that, I would say a great opportunity coming your way, or a great something coming your way that connects specifically with your destiny, or at the very least your idea of your destiny, what you believe to be your destiny. This card is the Sun meets Pluto. The Sun is our conscious awareness. Pluto is all that is powerful, and it is also the deep, dark, unconscious realms. So taking light into the darkness to transform it. So you get the idea. And speaking of taking light into the darkness in your hopes or fears, you have the Sun. So hopes or fears the sun. So first of all, again, being able to see things clearly, see things as they are, that's a huge aspect of this card, and including, especially with the death card, is the underlying energy also, taking the light of your awareness into the unconscious and performing that alchemy. But this card is also one of new beginnings and stuff like that. New beginnings, new openings, new opportunities, embracing life, enjoying life, stuff like that. And so you're hoping for something new, it would appear, hoping for the leaving behind, or the transforming of what is dark within you, transforming it into light, and thus therefore being free of it, essentially, like when we take the other cards together here. And even if we go back to the very first card, the Lover's Reverse, and we consider that can be possibly not seeing things quite so clearly, we could say that that's something that's on your mind this month. Are you thinking clearly, thinking logically, thinking soundly? Well, the Lover's Reverse says that at the beginning of the month you may not be, or there's at least a risk of that. But this card showing up in Hopes or Fears says there's still this kind of energy, this clear sight active in your vibration. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be showing up in this tarot reading. And so that says to me you have a good chance of being able to see what you need to see this month. You just have to apply some deliberate focus. And yes, focus does take effort. So for the final outcome card, how you end the month of March, we have the Six of Wands reversed. So again, I've got to call it like I see it. Six of Wands reversed can be the idea of laziness or procrastination. It can be fatigue, tiredness. It can be ego problems, stuff like that. Like I would say either having like an inflated ego or not having a strong enough ego. It could be either end of the spectrum as far as I can tell. With it being a sixth house, you could be looking at some potential health problems. And so I would say be careful health-wise around the end of the month. And even with that Lover's card, another six, the very beginning, you might want to be careful around your health all month. But the Lover's card, of course, has so many other connotations, I'd say, especially around the end of the month. But yes, regardless, take care of your health this month. There might also be, let's see. Okay. From what I'm seeing here, okay, so for some of you, there might also be a certain amount of antipathy to day-to-day work. Could be just regular day-to-day activities, but I'd say especially day-to-day work more than anything. And work that perhaps is feeling very monotonous, very menial. Perhaps there are a number of you out there right now who have jobs that you just plain don't like, and there's an antipathy to that. There's a desire to break free from that, and yet the time may not necessarily be right with what we see with the Hierophant card earlier. So now, is that going to be 100% true for every single one of you in a general reading? No, it is not. So you have to ultimately figure out what's right for you. But generally speaking, we had the Hierophant card earlier, and it's telling us that we want to stick to the order and status quo, typical order and status quo of things, at least for this month. Next month could be a whole nother deal. But that's my advice there. So again, though, with the Six of Wands reverse, like you could be looking at some like low energy, if not all out health concerns. So I would say take extra care of your health this month. And other than that, it really doesn't look like too bad of a month or anything. Like just be careful not to make wrong decisions, to make choices that maybe lead to short-term pleasures, but at the cost of long-term losses, essentially. And other than that, there's some powerful opportunity coming your way, coming to the way of the vast majority, if not all of you, with that Judgment card. And so, whatever that is having to do with your destiny, embrace it, be all for it, own it, I would say. So, that's about it, Cancer. Thanks for being here. Again, if you would like a personal reading with me, like I said earlier, I go live on this channel regularly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And on those days, I often do live tarot readings for donations of any amount. You could pay literally just $1, and I'll give you a Celtic Cross reading on anything you want. So feel free to subscribe if you want to watch for those live streams. And if you find me live doing one of them, feel free to come on in, ask your question, and leave a donation. I would love to give you a reading. So thanks again, Cancer. Enjoy your month of transformation and destiny calling, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.